What is going on, everybody? We are back live, 6:30 Eastern. Can you see me? Can you hear me? And vote. Vote on the poll that's up on the right. Said that I would do a 14-team draft this week. Thought it through more, and I was like, well, I should probably leave it up to you guys because I don't think we have time to do like full ones because it's like, if we do a 14 team, I don't think I can also do another draft on top of that. So this week we're going to pick. Would you prefer to see the Best Ball Mania draft or something like that? Or would you prefer to see a 14 team, which means 13 of you will be able to join in? Just let me know. Do the voting. I'll leave it until we get like a decent number of votes. But right now, 14 team draft is winning. If we do that one, I'll take off this like overlay so we can see all like the 14 teams. I'll adjust the screen accordingly depending on what wins. But we got to see what wins first. So I'll leave that there for like a couple more minutes. If you have any questions, now would be a good time to throw some of those in there while we wait for a few more votes to go in. Maybe when we get to like 30 votes, maybe like 6 more votes. Maybe if Best Ball Mania doesn't creep up in any way, we'll start doing that one. But hit the like button. Get the likes up here for the beginning part. Yeah, it seems like we're doing 14, 70%, 25 votes. 71%. All right, let's do it. And no, we're not going to do a Dynasty one. We did a rookie Dynasty or like a rookie draft last week for Dynasty. Okay, let's get rid of this and let's make me smaller so we can see the first one. What pick do you guys think I should be? If you had to prefer, I was any of the picks on the screen here. Throw it out there. First time I see 2 of the same number, I'll take that one, and then I'll post the link for all of you guys in the chat here, but I'll post that after I see something. Middle pick, 7 picks, 7. All right, we'll do a middle pick. Okay. There is the link. Anyone can join. If you don't know what it's on Sleeper, which is free to like make a Sleeper account. This is a regular redraft. I will check the settings. I want to do full PPR, I think. Yeah, full PPR. We can do 30 seconds on the clock so we can kind of get through quickly because it is 14 teams in this one. I'll check the roster. I didn't check that before. Yeah, this looks good. 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex spots so you could kind of go, whatever strategy you want. 6 bench, defense, no kicker. A general setup that I like. I like having the option with the 2 flex because, if you get stuck with running back or wide receiver heavy starts, you can kind of like get away with it because you have the extra flex spot. Okay, it looks like everyone is in here. Excellent. Start the draft. And we are on our way, so probably no Underdog this week. Apologies to the people at Underdog, but if you want the rankings, use Underdog. We'll still get the promo code out there, promo code FFA. It honestly is the best way to get the redraft rankings. You get Underdog too, which is awesome, but redraft rankings completely free, plus Underdog rankings both completely free. If you sign up for Underdog with promo code FFA, deposit at least $10, plus they're going to give you cash on top of it, plus you can or deposit bonus on top of it, and then you'll be able to join some drafts for it. Some have finished. I'm in 50, I believe, right now, 50 slow drafts on Underdog. I had to take a small pause, so I wasn't on the clock in too many. I think 50 is probably a little bit too many. It's probably like 40 is a good number to be on the clock in. But anyways, okay, we'll talk about strategy, I think a little bit more as we kind of work our way through. And again, strategy changing if we're in like, deeper formats. First round strategy, there really isn't a whole lot. The question here is, do we want to start off with Hero or do we want to start off with Amon-Ra St. Brown? I think you start off with Bijan. So I did a study this offseason where I went in, and I'm not going to say exactly how, but I collected over 2 million teams from Sleeper over the last couple of years. And I basically wanted to look at and say, like, okay, teams that did, X number of wide receivers in the first few rounds, drafted their like 4th wide receiver by round 6. Like, how do these different teams do depending on the scoring format, depending on how many starting wide receivers you had, all those different things. I also wanted to add in Superflex, and I wanted to add in the difference between 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 team leagues. Unfortunately, even at 2 million teams, it's not enough, which like sounds weird, but when you break it down, you're like, okay, 14, how many, even in a 2 million team sample, how many 14 team full PPR, 3 wide receiver, 2 flex teams do you think there are? It's like once you start getting down that specific, when you broke it down between like the league size, it was too specific and the results I didn't think were trustworthy enough. So I bundled everything together for league size 8 through 16, like all of it is in there. Next offseason, because that was basically my last project of the offseason, next offseason, we're going to go in and we're going to collect, I mean, I'd like to collect like, 10 million teams, like just get like a lot more. And then we'll have enough of a sample to say, plus we'll have another year of data. We'll have enough of a sample to say, okay, we can now break it down and look at only like 8 team leagues and kind of go from there. So I don't have data on exactly the difference. I mean, no one does in the industry. This is the first study anyone's done for it. But I don't have data on exactly the difference in like an 8-team league versus like a 16-team league. And honestly, you can argue like both sides of the spectrum in terms of like what you do with quarterback, what you do with tight end. I'll kind of continue that after we make our next pick here. But it basically be like compared to like a traditional like 12-team league, how do we want tight end more early? Do we want quarterback more early? So we'll talk about that in a second. I would say this pick is probably wide receiver. We're already in that like second tier of running back. If you wanted to go, Achane, Jacobs, Pacheco, it'd be Pacheco over Jacobs, but Achane first. That would be fine. But I think the better play is probably to go with wide receiver for me here. We've got Brandon Ayuk. I would say Brandon Ayuk is my top receiver, so we should have him up there. I wouldn't go with tight end or quarterback. So it'd be Ayuk or Achane, but I just think I think the goal for us here is, okay, so here's a general. I'm in a 16-team league, subscriber league every year. And typically, when you look at the results from that league, but you look at like how builds kind of work out and just like the strongest teams, even not the teams that necessarily win it, because winning has some variance. There's a lot less risk in attacking wide receiver earlier on when you have this larger format, because you think about your running backs, it's like, well, that's obviously the most volatile position. It's the most, injured position, easiest to bust at, the highest bust rates early on. And so when you go running back heavy earlier in a deeper format, you can open yourself up to a lot of risk, because if, let's just say the team here that went like Breece Hall and Jacobs, right? Well, the year like, let's just say Breece Hall like tears ACL again, or like Jacobs is a bust because he was hyper efficient last season and the results aren't great after that. I'm not saying don't draft these two. I'm just saying, what if that happened, right? It just hurts you a lot more in a deeper format when you miss early on. And by going wide receiver heavy, you increase the chance that you don't miss early on. We also have the ability to start 4 wide receivers. So you're not even really deviating into something that's, negative EV. You're taking in full PPR a position that you could start 4 of that you probably want 5 strong at. So it lends itself, as you open up, first kind of takeaway for bigger leagues, a little bit more viable going hero, going RB0, just for like that sort of benefit. In terms of tight end and quarterback, I truly think that's a year by year thing. I still would say this is a year where I would want one of Kelsey, Laporta, McBride. I'll start them all. These are all the ones that I would say are in this like top tier. It goes down through Kittle. So through there, it would be really, really nice if you could get one of them. And I really don't care what your league size is. In an 8-team league, I think it becomes much stronger of a need to do that, because if you're like the only team that's starting, like, it wouldn't be that bad, but you're starting like Ingram, Bowers, and Njoku, and you're feeling good, but like every single week you're losing at tight end. It's like there's only so many things in a small league you can do to gain an edge. One of them is tight end. One of them is quarterback. So it's a little bit more viable there. As you go into the later ones, it's like, when we look at quarterback this season, there are a lot of really strong options at quarterback. So I think it becomes a little bit less of a need to have that high-end quarterback, a little bit less of a need to have that high-end tight end. But again, I still think this season, if I had to pick one, I would say tight end I would want earlier on, because you also probably can't do early tight end and quarterback in like a 14-team league. You're losing a lot of value running back and wide receiver. But general take there on the differences. Okay. At wide receiver, why don't we just open up flex, actually? Laporta's still there, which I might do. If I went receiver, I wouldn't do Debo, so it'd be probably Waddle or Pittman. If I went running back, there are actually some quality running back options. Mixon. Part of me wants to do Mixon. Yeah. Right at the last second, we'll turn off auto pick here. I think Laporta would have also been a very, very strong pick here. Johnny gets him after me. I kind of wanted to lock up Robinson, Mixon, because I looked at running back here. I like Ken Walker. I think Jones, James Conner, Swift, Stevenson have ceilings. But we're actually very quickly going to exit that range. And I do think there's a drop-off, especially in full PPR, after Mixon. So I feel like I kind of got the last player from that tier I feel like really strongly about. And honestly, at this point, we're waiting like forever. Like I don't envision myself going for a third running back this early on. I would imagine we kind of hammer out wide receiver because there truly are just like a lot of wide receivers left. So like again, we could have gone Pittman, could have gone Waddle there, but I think we're going to get a pretty strong wide receiver in the next pick. Who knows? Maybe people are going to hammer that. Okay, so why don't we end the poll because we don't need that going on there. Thank you for the one person who voted for the 16-team league. I guess no one wanted to see that one. Pearsall injury and issue. Tough to say, right? Because we don't know anything about it. We know that he is likely to miss the first 4 practices. I think that's something I saw. Other than that, we have no idea. We don't love hamstring injuries. I'll tell you that much. If it turns into a long-term thing, absolutely. Because also, whenever rookies, doesn't really matter what position, but I would say wide receiver matters a decent amount, especially in a like a Shanahan system where there's like a lot of the coaching staff wants to see and trust you before putting you out there. It's a concern if a rookie is going to miss a lot of time in camp. Luckily, if you're ever going to miss time in camp, it's probably now that you would want to miss, just because they're just ramping guys up. They're implementing, week 1 game plans in a while, right? Like there's still a long time before that happens. If you were to miss like the final 2 weeks of camp, okay, that's a problem, right? You're like completely out of the game plan early on. Maybe they really like their game plan. Maybe you don't have time to fully get going. But if he ends up missing a week, it's not going to matter at all. If he ends up missing a couple of weeks, it's going to be a problem. So we kind of need to wait and see. But in a redraft league, if you have to start off slow, he's what? You're 6th wide receiver. It's not really a big deal if your 6th wide receiver starts a little bit slower off than they would have before. So a problem, but honestly, how I'm treating on Underdog specifically, because how many people are actually drafting redraft right now to understand what to do right now. I'm just loading up. I'm just saying he's my bet this season. I think he's going to be really strong. I think there's just hidden upside there if they do something with one of these receivers. I just think he has too much upside to be going where he is, which is 145 by ADP. So I'm willing to just load up, bet on it being a small injury because if he comes back, let's say the injury turns out to be nothing and he does well in the preseason, dude's going to pick 110, right? So it's just that upside I kind of want right now. Okay. Flowers tank are pretty clearly, I think, the top 2 wide receivers on the board if we went to all players. Kincaid would be another very strong pick. We keep getting to, have one of these tight ends on the board here. My gut says this is how I'd want it in full PPR. What wide receivers would we be looking at? I don't know what the correct choice is, but I want to do Kincaid right now. I keep letting the auto draft do the pick. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a case to going just going Flowers or Dell there to be hey, you wanted to start 4 wide receivers, you kind of have to be loading up. I think we can get okay value at wide receiver after this because we're basically done. I mean, it wouldn't be worst idea in a league this deep to grab another tight end, but the back half of tight end, like there's so many that are similar. Like if I drafted a tight end in the last round, it's probably going to be someone of similar outlook as someone that, I'd be picking off free agency if Kincaid got injured. So I think it's a 6-person bench that we have in this league. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think if we have like 7 or 8 spots, I'd go for backup tight end. I feel like just take Kincaid, finish off that position. I do think this makes it so like we probably should cool it and go. We really should be attacking wide receiver right now. I'm really hoping that one of like Stroud or Anthony Richardson is not there at my next pick, because that's going to tempt me into doing both of those players. But this is why I said like there's different thought processes, thought outlooks to like what you want to do with these spots. And I will be very interested to see when I can finish the study next season on quarterback differences. But one thought is what I said before, that the back half of quarterback is relatively strong. And so as we extend the amount of starting quarterbacks that are, being drafted, we're not really seeing that much of a drop off. So it's like, the difference between Caleb Williams, Purdy, Tua, and like Stafford, Watson, Geno isn't that large, right? And so if I can wait a lot longer in a format like this and not lose too much value, that's good. But the flip side of that is, well, how do you build a super team in a 14-team league? Well, I can tell you, if Kincaid works out the way I think, you're not going to be able to trade for him. In a full PPR league, he's capable of 100 receptions. You are not going to be able to trade for Dalton Kincaid in a 14-team league if he starts going off. Same thing with like a Richardson or a Stroud. If we hit on those two, those are pieces we can't trade for that are crushing other teams each week who, let's face it, there's going to be busts at tight end. There's going to be people streaming tight ends because, their picks don't work out. If all we have to do at this point is say we're good at running back, load up on wide receiver, we're just taking a million shots at wide receiver. So it's like, it becomes like you can really do whatever you want. You can tell a story to yourself as long as you finish it off properly. If we drafted what now would be Richardson at this pick, it would be very important for us to hammer wide receiver and to not be drafting a backup quarterback, backup tight end, using picks coming up on running back. Like we need to literally take like 5 wide receivers in a row if we're going to do that. But you can look at the flip side, like I said before, and do something else. So Richardson is viable. I'll show you running back here, but again, it's not a position we should go after. We shouldn't be going after tight end right now. We need to be attacking wide receiver if we're not going to go quarterback. If we don't, we've got Rome Odunze, we've got Rashee Rice, we've got Addison, Jaden Reed, McLaurin. I just didn't click him. He'd be right up there at the top. I think he'd actually be first in full PPR. Godwin would be a great pick. Like there's some really, really strong picks at wide receiver here. Okay. I don't have to force make the pick. In full PPR, I don't honestly know who exactly I have ranked first. I think I do have McLaurin. I know McLaurin's ahead of Odunze. I'm wondering if Rashee Rice jumped ahead of him recently. I don't think so, though. I should probably pull it up, though, right? We'll take McLaurin, and then I'll pull up my full PPR rankings over here so I can actually tell you the answer to these questions. Let's see, full PPR. I said recently for Rashee Rice, though, because latest reports kind of seem to lean towards Rashee Rice not getting suspended this season. He'll get suspended at some point, for sure. But kind of seems like it's going to be pushed into 2025. And if that happens, he's a pretty good value for where he's going in drafts. The correct pick there was Godwin, but I was close. So Rashee Rice is first. It was Rice, then Godwin, then McLaurin, then Marquise Brown. I don't know if Calvin Ridley was there. He is there. Okay. So I wasn't too far off. I was thinking maybe Godwin is there, but I also saw Godwin down in ADP. I was like, maybe Godwin makes it back to me. But we'll see. So maybe I should rank them in order here. I should put them in order. So Rashee went. So yeah, Godwin, Marquise Brown, Calvin Ridley, Deontay, and Odunze. Okay. Godwin. Where's Jaden Reed? Oh, okay. Jaden Reed's after Odunze. Excuse me. Addison. Okay. Where was Marquise Brown? Was after Godwin. Oh. Where's Addison? Addison's last. I don't know why I put him there. Okay, so we're hoping one of those guys makes it back to us. 5 wide receivers, it might not happen, to be honest with you, but we'll hope it does. Okay, I haven't answered any questions yet. Keep firing away the questions, though, because when we get to the end of this, I can just answer all of those. You have the 101 in a 10-team full PPR league where you're keeping Brees in the 2nd. You're keeping James Cook in the 7th. Would you take CMC or CD? So, yeah, if you take CMC, you're already starting off with McCaffrey, James Cook, and Brees Hall, which almost makes it so you don't need a running back until round, 11? Maybe like round 10, 11. Or do you start off with CMC and just pretend like you went, CMC Brees? Because your first pick won't be till round 3. It will be the first pick in round 3. What I would do is I would sit there and I would basically look at a ranking sheet, whatever rankings you use, and I'd start just crossing off the people who've been drafted and see what you project to be there in the 3rd round, because that will be important. If it looks very likely that a really strong wide receiver will be there and that you're not going to be forced into running back, then I would go with McCaffrey and I would just take him. If it looks like, hey, there's a really decent chance that the best player is actually running back or something that's not wide receiver, maybe it's tight end or something like that, and it looks like you're not going to get that great of a wide receiver, I might lean towards CeeDee Lamb just to make sure you have that really strong wide receiver, because it is important to have kind of the high end there. So that's kind of how I would treat it. My guess is that there will be a strong wide receiver there at round 3, or at least the likelihood of it. And I would probably just take CMC, just take the value, because he's still awesome, obviously, in that format. We're going to take Deontay Johnson here. And then, hope that the wide receiver's there. But then you obviously, again, don't go after running back after that. But yeah, you got to kind of just feel it out and just kind of see what it's looking like. But my guess is I would go with CMC. I would say, okay, hold on. If it looks like the top wide receiver is going to be T. Higgins, Pickens, Kirk, Keenan, this whole range and on, go with CD. If you look at the top wide receiver is going to be more Waddle, Diggs, Debo, Pittman, Metcalf, I'm cool with that. Go with McCaffrey. Hopefully that answered the question. Best ball home league. That would be fun to do. 12 teams, half PPR. It's 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 3 receiver, 1 tight end, 2 flex. Oh my goodness. 11 bench, 20 rounds. Okay. It's underdog format. We'll just say, or underdog format, but an extra flex option. So hammering wide receiver. Any advice for that? Yeah. You are going either hero or RB0. You are absolutely hammering the wide receiver position. In 20 rounds, you should probably have 10 receivers. I wouldn't fault someone for going 8 wide receivers in a row. And I understand that sounds absolutely insane. Your goal is just to say, well, I feel the most confident wide receiver. I can start 5 of them every week in best ball. So I'm taking the best 5 scores, hammer the wide receiver position. This pushes quarterback back. It pushes tight end back. Again, you can go hero if you are in the first round, you want to take Bijan, Brees, McCaffrey, something like that. If you get honestly Saquon, JT should be going in round 3 in that, but you are hammering wide receiver. In full PPR, 3 wide receiver, 1 flex, 12-team league. What is your wide receiver strategy for an auction league? What ranges of wide receiver are you looking to target? I mean, I'm looking to target the same thing as a non-auction league, just paying auction dollars, in the sense that it's full PPR and I can start 4 of them. So I would like to have heavy wide receiver. I wouldn't feel amazing if I didn't have a top 10 option, but if I went that route, I better have 4 that are in the wide receiver 2 kind of range. I would just want to be heavy because why not? Doesn't mean overpay for the first couple off the board. I would definitely be suggesting running backs early on. I would be queuing up, saying, hey, people, how much you want to spend on McCaffrey and Brees and all these guys. Try and get people to pay a lot of money for them so you can go to wide receiver. But I mean, like, I would maybe I wouldn't target like Lamb Hill. I feel like they're just gonna go for so much in that format. But like I would go after like that Garrett Wilson Puka range. I would go after like a Houston wide receiver. I go after like Tank Dell. I would go after like Devonta Smith, Cooper Kupp, Waters. Okay, so maybe that's the range, is try and get one of like Chase, Jefferson, St. Brown. But like if you can get Garrett Wilson and then that kind of like this general range, be attacking this, that's what I would do. You know, Pittman, Metcalf, Tank Dell, Godwin. I would just want to be like loading up on as many of that as I can, but while also having like I still want a heavy hitter. I still want like a Garrett Wilson or something like that. Okay, we're up next. We don't even want queued up. I'm not going running back. Quarterback. Oh, I like Jordan Love. I don't know. We could go with Jordan Love. We could go with Worthy. Worthy's not a bad pick here. Worthy is the top wide receiver. I did check it. He'd be, I'm going to put it here. If I added in quarterback, 10 seconds. Ooh, I technically have Love first, but I think I want to take Worthy. Had I gone with Rashee Rice, I probably would have drafted Jordan Love there. I don't know that I would want a double dip. I think that, and I'm not worried about him. He's just like sick right now. That's not a problem. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I feel like Mahomes is going to throw for like 5,500 yards this year. I have this like weird feeling that he's going to just absolutely dominate, that he's going to go back to being like, you know, just that guy where you're like, it's a free 330 and 3 touchdowns every single week. Because you look at last season, it's like they were trotting out absolute garbage. Like if Rashee Rice isn't going to be suspended and you add on Worthy and Marquise Brown and you get like that consistent downfield threat, oh man, they're going to be humming on offense. And I think Worthy kind of makes that perfect, like honestly, it's a perfect flex play, but like a perfect in the second flex spot, especially because we're looking at this and we're being like, how much, like you just want variance with that second flex spot. Because like if you feel like, I feel very confident in like Bijan and Mixon just being rock solid on the team. I feel good about Ayuk and McLaurin. I did just think like if he ends up going to the Commanders, that's probably not amazing. Maybe we can just draft Daniels in this one. We're just gonna have a stack, which actually we'll talk about in a second. But like I feel good about their production. I feel great about having Kincaid there. Deontay's gonna be consistent. It's like I have that second flex spot. Let's shoot for the moon. You know, if he ends up having like 6 points in a week, 4 points in a week, like that's not the end of the world. Because he has the upside to be like, oh, he just got 2 70-yard touchdowns this week because he's, you know, the fastest wide receiver in NFL history and he's on a team with Patrick Mahomes. Like, I don't think he'll be consistent, but he's going to have that weekly ceiling that I kind of want in that second flex spot. But anyways, when I said stacking, one thing I tried to do, and it failed miserably, but I tried to do in the 16-team league last year was I drafted Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, and I think I had Aaron Rodgers too, but now I forget if I did. I think I did. And I was basically like, okay, because I ended up drafting those two and like not realizing it, to be honest. But I was like, it's a 16-team league. If I can just make a bet that the Jets, Aaron Rodgers goes out there and has an awesome season, Breece Hall is going to crush. Garrett Wilson, I thought was going to absolutely crush. And I'm like, I'm just hitting on 3 pieces in a format that like, it's pretty hard to beat 15 other teams. I kind of need something to go my way. 4 snaps into the season, it did not go my way, obviously. And so I knew that was kind of busted. But I mean, Breece ended up being an amazing pick and Garrett Wilson wasn't. But it was like, looking back on it, it's like that was kind of the move, was being like, okay, I drafted these 2 early because I liked the value on them. I might as well go all in. So like, if we knew Ayuk was going to the Commanders, it would actually be sharp in a deeper format to add that correlation. Because like in a 10-team league, you don't need that correlation. You're only trying to beat 9 people. Still hard to do, but it's only 9. You had to beat 13 people here. Like you need a few things to go your way. Adding in a little bit of correlation isn't the worst thing in the world to do as the format gets deeper. Okay, we're up in 3 picks. Not amazing. Curtis Samuel's the best pick here. And he is a strong pick. At running back, I would not hate going with Chubb, but I don't think it's necessary. At quarterback, I also don't think any of these guys are necessary. At tight end, I also don't think these guys are necessary. So I think given how long we waited not waited at wide receiver, but waited for like that second wide receiver, like I definitely think if I had the full study done, it would not tell me that round 5 is the first time you should be taking your second wide receiver. I guarantee you it'll say lean towards that second wide receiver a little bit earlier on. So I think just make up for that fact by drafting one here. Because again, it's like, oh, you drafted your bench spot, right? Well, first off, it's only quarterback that's left, and I think I can get better value than this. But other than that, I forgot I drafted Kincaid. I almost was looking at tight end there. Other fact is basically like, okay, we have 4 opportunities for an injury, 4 opportunities for a bye week, 4 opportunities for, a windstorm, a rainstorm, a snowstorm. Like, there are going to be, I could have just like a busted player, right? Maybe it just turns out that Deontay Johnson just doesn't fit on this team. Or maybe it turns out that, Xavier Worthy needs a little bit more time to develop before we can trust him. It's like, we're not going to hit on every single pick. And so don't be afraid to kind of overload a position just a little bit more, because you never know what's going to happen. And then you're also going to need these guys once bye weeks happen, injuries happen. Your team in week 5 might look very different from your team on draft day. So I know everyone loves their draft, but you're not going to be perfect. I'll just do this so you guys can see for a little bit. What is the sweet spot? Middle pick, last pick, or first few? What's your favorite spot in general? My guess is that would change on league size, especially in like a smaller format where it matters having those peak players. Like an 8-team league, I would probably like almost certainly want an early pick, just because McCaffrey, like having someone who's like number 1 at their position is just so much more valuable when everyone has a great team. As you start to extend, it probably gets a little bit less valuable having that early pick, because also like, this round 2-3 turn is just simply weaker. In a 12-team league, it's weaker this season, the end of round 2. That being said, if we look at historical results, it pretty much just says earlier you were, the better. Like basically as picks drop off, as you get later in the first round, historically teams do worse. I would like to do a larger study on that this offseason, but from the data that I have seen, it was pretty clear that early picks did better. But it also depends on your player takes. If you are someone that really, really likes these second-round running backs like Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, again, in like more of a 10 or 12-team league, not in a 14-team league, you're not going to get them if you have an early pick. So you're going to have a mid or a late first-round pick to do that. If you are someone who, doesn't trust the back half of those wide receivers, and you're like, I actually don't want to be in that range, you're going to want, a mid or a late first round pick. If someone just like said right now you're in a 12-team league, you got to pick a draft spot, I'm probably just being like, just give me the earliest spot possible or middle, because I wouldn't mind having like a 5 pick. At 5, right, you have McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill are probably gone, and then you've got like Bijan and Breece Hall if you wanted to go RB, like your RB or something like that. I wouldn't hate like 6 pick would guarantee you Jefferson, 7 pick guarantees you one of Jefferson, Chase. Like, like once we get, I would say 8, this like 4 through 8 range, you're getting a very similar player. So if you wanted to be in the 7-8 spot, wouldn't hate that at all. Where I would hate is like 9. 9 stinks, like 9, 10, 11, 12, like all of this kind of stinks because you are getting that second tier. So you don't have a tier 1 player. And then yes, tier 2 is coming earlier, but those players aren't as different as the one going right there. Okay, we have to make our pick. Running back, top player is Chase Brown. At quarterback, we can still have options. I don't think we need to do anything. Wide receiver, I'll be honest with you, I don't want to do it. Maybe we just go with Chase Brown. We probably should be attacking quarterback soon. I just don't feel a need to. So let's take Chase Brown. We'll turn off auto. What quarterbacks do we want? But again, Daniels makes sense for us, but Daniels, Caleb. I'll pull up my quarterback rankings. It's close between like Goff, Trevor Lawrence range. Okay, so Daniels, Caleb. Then it was Tua, who's gone. Herbert, Lawrence, Goff, Kirk. Herbert, Lawrence, Goff, Kirk. The projection difference between all these guys is 302 for Jaden Daniels and 268 for Kirk Cousins. So that's a decent drop-off. Basically, Daniels and Caleb are, I would say, in like the same tier. Then a tier drop down into Herbert and Lawrence. And then almost a mini tier drop down into Goff and Cousins. But I don't know. I think like outcome-wise, I would say Herbert, Lawrence, Goff, Cousins are pretty much all in the same tier. So that's how we'll treat it. I think at this next pick, if I can get one of Daniels or Caleb, I probably just do that. But again, this is why I said like the value in, I'll do this for you all. The value in a 14-team league of sitting here and like kind of taking a step back and being like, okay, we didn't end up, I mean, we didn't have the choice of Richardson. I may have done it, but we didn't go with that. If we kind of pump the brakes and say, okay, this is allowing us to take advantage of a lot of these late quarterbacks being very, 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 very similar. Do we just continue to load up on other positions, make sure we're really strong everywhere else, and then say we're getting, a similar-ish quarterback to what people are taking in rounds like, 7 on? I would say starting with like, this Tua Purdy, because I think Love is awesome. But we got it much later. We were able to load up on other positions. That's kind of like the value in a deeper format, especially because, you've probably, if you've been in a deep league, you understand that like teams can fall apart. I mean, if you lose some of your early picks in a 14-team league, you start looking at your roster every week and you're like, good God, like this is absolutely disgusting. Huge question on Kincaid. Isn't there an issue with Knox? I mean, he's there, but they have 317 targets available from last season. So sure, give some of those to Knox, but like, I don't believe in Keon Coleman. Hold on, I gotta make my pick here first. So we're not gonna take the wide receiver because those guys went. Cooks would be top wide receiver. We're not gonna say quarterback. I think I said wide receiver before. Top running backs would be probably Lloyd, but I think, how many running backs do we have right now? We have 3. I'm not going to do that. No, I'm going to take Cooks. I think there's just more value in just saying, I'm going to be strong at, always do this. I'm going to be strong at wide receiver instead of taking the running back there. I think we'll go running back with our next pick if we don't want the quarterbacks. I really want to make sure every single week I would have 4 rock-solid wide receivers. Back to the question, though. Yeah, he's there, but like Kincaid is probably their top target. They're going to look at this and say, okay, I don't think Keon Coleman can step in and be an X receiver in year 1. I truly do not believe he can fill Stephon Diggs' shoes. He can't do that. Actually, I mean, Gabe was playing X before, but they need an X. He's not that. Curtis Samuel's not playing the X. Shakir's not playing the X, and so they're probably going to have to throw Keon Coleman out there unless they're going to throw like Claypool out there or something. And he's probably not going to command a ton of targets. Why does it look weird for you guys on this one? Anyways. Oh, probably because I hit a button up here. I was like, why does it look like it's way further back for you guys? So I think they're going to basically be like, okay, well, Shakir's not commanding any sort of target share. Keon's not commanding a target share. Dawson Knox isn't commanding target share. Our running backs aren't going to go out there and have like 10 receptions every week. Who is commanding targets, or who can he feature an offense around? They're going to look at Dalton Kincaid and be like, probably you. So I just think he's going to have so many targets that it's not going to really matter that, there's another tight end. It's like they're going to use him in like the slot. They're going to use him as like an actual wide receiver at times. Really nice we got Lloyd here. If we didn't get Lloyd, I'd probably be looking at the upside of right. Yeah, it'd be nice to get Lloyd. Nice. Okay. Because, wide receiver, we are really starting to get into a drop-off. I don't want to queue anyone up for you guys to steal them, but honestly, there's a pretty big drop-off there. Let's grab Marshawn Lloyd. Let's just continue to say, prove it to me that you guys are going to draft a million quarterbacks, which you might. But I think there's enough on the board still that I feel confident in. I think we're looking good. This is like a classic FFA team. Back in the day, we used to only do, late quarterback, double dip on the late quarterback. That was also when, remember that year we got Lamar Jackson, like MVP season. He was going like the 14th round in every draft and was like, okay, here's a free win. Like just draft Lamar and someone else. Drafting has gotten sharper just because there's more content out there for people to consume. So we're not going to have that happen again where someone, wins MVP as like a 14th or 15th round pick. But it can still work in a league like this if we've kind of secured a solid team, and there's no need again for us to take a quarterback at this point who's very similar to all the other ones. And now, yes, now that we're in like round 12, but before that, it was like, running back's going to dry up very quickly. Running backs probably in a round are going to be disgusting. So it was good for us to kind of grab another one. I feel great. I mean, having Bijan, Mixon, Chase Brown, and Lloyd at running back, I feel very confident we can field the team with that because we only need 2 every week. And then having Ayuk, McLaurin, Deontay, Worthy, Curtis Samuel, and Brandon Cooks, I feel good about that. We're getting targets every week. And then Kincaid again. You guys know I just said really like him. I feel like I skipped a lot. In PPR tight end premium, who are you targeting? I mean, at what position? Tight ends, I guess, but that format would really shift down running backs because quarterbacks go up, PPR favors wide receiver. But yeah, at what position? Will you be updating your rankings on Fantasy Pros? I mean, when the season starts probably, but there's no real incentive to give Fantasy Pros my rankings so that their rankings are stronger. So probably in a while, sometime in like late August, I'll probably give them updated rankings. But no, the updated rankings will be on my website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. Keeper question, but I should probably look at the draft board. Looks like the quarterbacks did go, unfortunately. So let's take a look back at quarterback. I have Rodgers, then Watson, then Stafford. Base all the same tier. Baker after that, then Geno. All separated by 8 points in projection. So again, if we're kind of in this range, there's an 8-point difference. Why would I take a quarterback now? Do I think all of them are going to go with these picks? No. So I might just take one more and then double dip at quarterback or something like that. So who do we want? I mean, I like Douglas, especially in full PPR. I don't know that anyone else stands out, and I don't think there's anyone that's like buried in the rankings. Yeah, I would take Douglas. Running back's pretty gross. There's no one I'd really want there. Oh, no. Did we get up to it? Okay, we did it. It gave us that second. I didn't put him to the top in time. We almost auto-drafted Aaron Rodgers there. We're pushing our luck at quarterback. Again, 8-point difference between Rodgers and Geno Smith. We are in the range where you double dip. You take 2 quarterbacks. You understand that it's still a lower likelihood that both these guys are going to work out. So with 3 picks left, we probably should take quarterback soon. You are in a 10-team full PPR league, planning on keeping CMC with the last pick in round 1. Garrett Wilson in round 12. Last 2 options are Nico in the 9th or Kyron in the 16th, leaning towards Kyron. Yeah. I will say, as the rounds get further, it's like less so of a need. Like the difference between rounds 2 and rounds 5 is way different than difference between round like 10 and 16. Like early on, that value is huge. Later on, it's a 7-round difference, but it's not as big. But I feel like, I don't know, if you just kind of lock in CMC and Kyron, you're good. Like now you don't even need to touch the running back position. You already have Garrett Wilson as well, and you're good on rounds 2 through 11. Like you're probably going to crush this league. Yeah, I would probably go with Kyren there. It's just a better value. Who would your last running back option in full PPR you'd feel confident having in running back 1 spot in drafts? Your league mates tend to panic at running back, push them up quickly. You don't want to be at a disadvantage early on. Yeah, it makes sense. Latest running back I'd be good with, and we're envisioning like a hero RB kind of build here. I would be good with McCaffrey, Brees, Bijan, Gibbs, JT, Saquon, Kyren, Etienne, Henry, Achane, Pacheco, Jacobs, Mixon. I don't know that I would trust Rachaad White. I might throw James Cook in there as well. Once we get into White, Ken Walker, Connor, Aaron Jones, Kamara, I'm not trusting those guys, even if I went wide receiver heavy as my 1. So I think once, and I'm still hesitant on Mixon Cook, but I think Mixon has like running back 1 upside this season. And so if they were pushing it and you went with wide receivers, I'd still, I think, be good with like, if you started off like, if I went Jefferson here, Jefferson, Ayuk, I mean, you're in a, what did you say, 10-team league or something like that? So you wouldn't have had to have as bad of a start as me in 14. I would say that though. Mixon and James Cook would kind of be like pushing that last bit that I would want. Okay. Can we make it another go around? I mean, we have to take 2 anyway, so it probably doesn't really benefit us. Yeah, we'll just do... Is the ADP that wild on Stafford? What's the actual ADP difference I have up here? Wow. Well, I think you go with Watson. I mean, I have him slightly projected higher. I turned that on. Okay. Yeah, we're going to double dip, though. I was just curious why. Yeah, they've Stafford really high. Or Cousins. Wow, I can't talk. Stafford, really high. So, with Watson, they're going to go spread. They're going to throw the ball at a high rate. They're going to run a ton of plays. Is he cooked? Probably. Honestly, like I don't know that he's any good, which is why we're going with 2 quarterbacks here, and we'll see what happens preseason. We'll see what happens, during the actual NFL season. But if he were to work out, we're on, the highest volume team in the league. They're probably going to run the most plays. It'd be like top 3. Say a top 3 team in plays. They're going to play fast. They're going to throw the ball a lot. They have talented pass catchers. He can be mobile. He can add on with his legs. So there's significant upside. I actually think he might just be bad. So we're definitely going to want another quarterback and one that like we feel decent about. But again, I said I'm cool with Stafford. I'm cool with Baker. I'm cool with Geno. I wouldn't really care that much about the bye week. I mean, I can check if it lets me. It does not. Oh, yeah, show player card. He has a week. Where is it? Oh, week 10 bye. Okay. So again, I don't think that matters in redraft because we can change it up by then. Geno technically is week 10. So maybe we lean against that, but I truly don't care. By week 10, we probably figured out which one we want and cut the other one. What is the best website for free mock drafts? I still think it's Fantasy Pros. Again, you kind of heard my take there of, Nick, when are you uploading your rankings? Fantasy Pros. Late August. Like, that's why sometimes their rankings aren't amazing, is because, like, I don't give them my most up-to-date rankings. So if you're trying to find my rankings on there, that's not my actual rankings. And so it's a little bit different. I still think it's the best, though, because you can do it quickly. So you could do a draft in there in 1 minute. Like, you can just rip through a draft. That's helpful. Slightly slower on Sleeper, and just the format is just not as good, especially if you felt like analyzing the team after. That being said, ADPs are probably a little bit sharper on Sleeper. Then that being said, it's like, I believe, I don't know if they have it right now, but at least when we get into August, they should have it on Fantasy Pros where you could select ADP. So you could be like, oh, do a draft on here, but select ESPN ADP and it'll draft based on that. I don't know if they have that right now. But like, if you're drafting on ESPN, there's no reason to look at Sleeper ADP because that's not the ADP you're drafting with. So it would still be best to kind of, utilize the ADP on the platform you're drafting from, and that would be able to do on Fantasy Pros. What would you say is the best overall draft position in a 12-team PPR? You have the option of picking 5 through 12. I kind of answered that before. I feel like my lean there is like 5 through 8. Again, I think there's an 8-player top tier. After that, it kind of stinks. I really wouldn't want to be 9 on. Okay, we'll just take Baker here. It is a risky duo, though, us having these two, because like Dave Canales is gone from Baker, and so he's a quarterback whisperer. Is Baker going to be as good without Canales? I don't know, but we're taking 2 shots. Free agency's going to have options. Again, it's 14-team league, but we're looking at McCarthy. When McCarthy starts, I would way rather McCarthy than Watson or Baker Mayfield. It's just, is he going to start in like week 8? But he's going to be really good when he starts. Geno, I would still like having. I think Drake May has upside. I think Bryce Young, who now has Dave Canales, I think he has upside. I think Bo Nix has theoretical upside, probably not a ton, but like Daniel Jones has mobility. Like he has some upside this season. Like there are options here where I feel like some of these players are going to do well. What about Sam Darnold? What if you wanted to go Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy? I think that would be completely viable. If you wanted to wait until the last 2 rounds in this deeper format and go Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy, and you have some risk of an in-week benching, but whoever starts is going to be good. Whoever starts there is going to have a solid projection, has great skill players around him, a great coaching staff. Whoever goes out there is going to have a good season. And then if it happens to be someone gets benched, you probably get hurt in that week, but hopefully it doesn't happen midweek, and they kind of make that change after like a bye week or something like that. And then you just flip on over the other one, you cut, because it would be Sam Darnold starting, and then it would go over to McCarthy on McCaffrey. Keep scrolling. What are your thoughts on late quarterback strategy for a 1-quarterback dynasty startup? Would you prefer to go robust or your RB? Thanks. Yeah, in dynasty, I drafted last year in my dynasty startup Anthony Richardson and Dak Prescott, and I did wait a decent amount of time. Unless your league is going really heavy, like I like the idea of taking one early guy, or like one young player and one more established older quarterback that you know is going to be relatively decent. I want to do like probably a running back at this spot. Yeah, I probably want to take a running back here. I don't feel a need to take one super early because, I mean, we just did our dynasty rookie draft. I got McCarthy at the 312. Like you're gonna have options on free agency. You're gonna have options in rookie drafts. Like there's a lot of quarterbacks, and especially one quarterback dynasty. So I wouldn't take quarterback early, and I would go like hero. I would not go robust in a dynasty league. There's no way I'm going robust RB. Hold on, I gotta make this pick. Wow, that's disgusting. Is there anyone here that I would want any part of? Nope. At wide receiver, I don't know, like Rondale wouldn't be terrible. Is there any running back? Wow. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm just gonna click Will Shipley. I have no faith. Oh, okay. Trey Sermon maybe was a better pick. Trey Sermon, but really, that's disgusting. You could go with Dylan if you thought he secured the pass catching role. Shipley was basically saying if from now to week 1, maybe like Saquon got hurt and Shipley would be the guy. I don't think Shipley's actually going to do anything this season, but I do think the team is better off given, how long I waited for running back at times there. Probably better off just taking a shot at a random running back. But yeah, to answer your question, do not go robust RB in a dynasty startup. Grab as many wide receivers as you can. Even if it's not full PPR, even in half PPR, grab a ton of wide receivers. If you want to draft one running back early, that's fine. I really would not go robust. They just their cliff happens so quickly, and you can still hit on running backs late. You can still trade for running backs. Like wide receivers have such a longer career. Their value stays higher longer. Like you're way better off doing that. And yeah, the thought process here would also be you can cut Shipley for a defense come week 1 pretty easily. Diggs at the 311 is criminal. He went here. He went after. That's basically where he's going this season. If anything, Debo typically goes before him, and in full PPR, you could see Pittman go before him. This is the range he goes at, though. Again, it's on Houston, so we don't really know what exactly is going to happen there for the target share. You just got invited to a Superflex or 2-quarterback league for the first time. Any advice on that strategy? Again, I want to do the larger study over the offseason, but for Superflex, the initial study that I've done says the worst thing you can do is have 2 quarterbacks after 2 rounds. So don't do the double dip at the 2 quarterback unless you get sick value. I would want 1 quarterback in the first 2 rounds. And if you ever needed to use that super flex spot, it is likely it's wide receiver. So I'd want to go with quarterback and wide receiver relatively early on. I'd probably go with Hero. Hero is my favorite build style. So if you wanted to go with a running back in round 1, a quarterback in round 2, and then like a wide receiver after that, and then go back to quarterback, that makes a lot of sense. But again, I would get a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. I would ideally want one of the I would love Mahomes, but like Mahomes, Stroud, Richardson, Burrow, Kyler, Love, like that sort of range, maybe Dak as well. I would want one of them, and then I'd want to try and get another one of Cousins, Daniels, Goff, Tua, that general range, and then another one that's one of the low end guys, like a Drake May, a Bo Nix, like someone like that. McCarthy, if you're good, like waiting a little bit. That's what I would try and do there, and then the rest of it just kind of do like a normal draft around that core. Any auction help out there? We have a pretty cool auction tool on the website. It has inflation, deflation, allows you to load in different sort of builds, and then kind of click around to different builds, being like, I want to go running back heavy, but then you realize you're like, whoops, everyone's drafting running backs, super expensive. They're spending a lot of money on them. Maybe you want to shift on over to another one. It kind of allows you to do that. So it's a pretty cool tool. I would check that one out. Diggs just went at the 301 in this 2-round keeper league I did, and there was 11 players kept that have 2nd-round value or less. I didn't follow that fully. 2-player keeper. Oh, so we went a 2-player keeper league at 301. So you're missing 2 rounds. Wow, that's late. Again, Diggs is a strong pick, but he is in the downturn of his career. We did see the speed was dropping last season. His success versus man and press was dropping last season. He's a worse wide receiver than he once was. Still a great wide receiver, but Nico is a better wide receiver right now between the two of them. I think Tank Dell could be. I don't know what's going to happen. But I think there's a world where Diggs is kind of in a low ADOT role, and he ends up being the 3rd most valuable. But in full PPR, I think he's a pretty strong value. Do the math. Wasted pick taking a quarterback higher than the 5th round. Look what you'd be giving up when you can get a quarterback late. That just puts up as much numbers. Facts. Well, it sort of depends, right? When you're taking a quarterback early, did Mahomes over 5,500 yards? Did Anthony Richardson break scoring and score 28 or 29 points per game? No, you're getting steamrolled by those teams if that ends up happening, and you're sitting there like me, and you're streaming Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson, right? I'm getting roasted by the team that has Anthony Richardson if that happens. If Anthony Richardson has 28 points per game, you don't think I would rather swap out Terry McLaurin and Deshaun Watson for Anthony Richardson, and I would have drafted Zay Jones? Of course I would rather do that to get that huge edge there at quarterback scoring. So it depends how the top end quarterbacks perform. But again, as I've been saying, round 2 value on getting Josh Allen at 213, Lamar at 301. I would way rather Richardson at 5'6", 4'6" for Mahomes. I think those 2 were probably the best picks at quarterback. I think Stroud was a solid one too, but those 2 I go after. Kyler at 6'10" was a really strong pick. 6'2" for Burrow. Those are the guys this year I feel like I'm kind of focusing on a lot. If you take Daniels, you're also targeting a second quarterback. That's right at the cutoff. I wouldn't be against it. It would just be kind of how things fall. Like, I wouldn't take one right away, but if you wanted to take Jane Daniels and then also take like Geno, Watson, Baker, Levis, Stafford, yeah, I think that's totally fine. I feel like at that point, I'm taking 2 here because I'm like, listen, these both could be complete and utter busts. I'm just trying to hit on 2 of them. I would prefer that taking Daniels as early as he was going, he isn't a complete bust because I kind of don't want to draft him. So I'd be okay just taking the 1, and I would want to wait a while. I don't think personally I'd go with Purdy and Daniels just because, like, how are you going to figure out how to start that each week? Like, Purdy's going to be consistent. He's going to get you like 17, 18, 19 every single week. You're going to be looking at Daniels. You're going to be like, okay, sometimes he scores 22. Sometimes he scores 12. And you're going to be like, what do I do? And it's just such a hard decision. I guess it gives you 2 solid options, but I think it's better off pick one of them and then go down here and pick that next one. Full PPR, let's say you go hero. Who are some guys you're grabbing late as your second or third running back? So in a hero RB build, let's just say, again, it's kind of different in a 14-team league, but let's just say I took Bijan, I didn't take Mixon, and I have to start in round 6. Zamir, Brooks, Warren, Najee, Moss, Chase Brown, Jerome Ford. I don't see where did he go? Yeah, Spears. There he is. I was trying to look for Spears. Those would be the guys I'd be kind of focusing on in that like second or third running back range. Because then I really wouldn't want my second running back to be like Chubb, who's not going to start the season. I wouldn't want it to be like Gus, Dowdle, Lloyd. Pierce went 1 pick behind Lloyd. My goodness, there's like a huge gap between those 2 players. Vaughn, Vidal, like we can't be in that range for our 2-3. So kind of the running backs I mentioned there. Cleveland running back, Kendre Miller, Trey Mason from the Cardinals, Trey Benson. Trey Mason is one of the worst keeper picks I've ever made in my life. Was it Trey Mason? Who was the guy on the Rams like 7 years ago? I don't think it was Trey Mason. What was his name? Someone remind me of that. But yeah, I kept him in like round 14, but he was terrible. I'm assuming you're asking who to go with. Oh, maybe you were answering the other person. Never mind. That's not a question. Okay. Name the 5 worst offenses. Are you talking about someone else? Oh, you guys are in a different conversation. Okay. Vidal's going to be a star. Well, we'll see, but probably not. Okay. I feel like that's good. Like the video if you guys watched this far. So 73 you in here, 58 likes. Like the video. I don't remember what tomorrow is, but we've got a good breakdown on Thursday that I also uploaded. But watch the videos coming out 8 a.m. every single day until we get back here next week for no Tuesday video, but the live stream on Tuesday night. That, my friends, is going to be the end of this one. Thank you for coming. Catch you guys next week.